Welcome, students. Today I'm going to teach you the second chapter of your first flight book. The name of the chapter is Nelson Mandela Long Walk to Freedom. Students, before we begin the chapter, I will give you an introduction. Nelson Mandela was a very famous personality. He belonged to Africa. And Long Walk to Freedom is an autobiography of Nelson Mandela, and a small portion of his book is in your chapter. Students, the first election was held in South Africa in 1994, and Nelson Mandela became the first president of South Africa. Mr. Mandela's ANC party, means African National Congress Party, won 252 of 400 seats in this election. Nelson Mandela fought against the apartheid policy. Apartheid is a political system that separates people according to their race, so that he was called as father of nation. So let's begin the chapter. 10th May dawned bright and clear. For the past few days, I had been pleasantly besieged by dignitaries and world leaders who were coming to pay their respect before the inauguration. The inauguration would be the largest gathering ever of international leaders on South African soil. In this chapter, there is a glimpse of inauguration ceremony along with the memories of past. He wrote, 10th of May 1994 was the golden day in the history of South Africa. Mr. Mandela writes that he had been surrounded by respected people and world leaders who were coming to greet him before the inauguration ceremony. It was the largest gathering that was going to be held in the South African soil. The ceremonies took place in the lovely sandstone amphitheatre formed by the Union Buildings in Pretoria. For decades, this had been the seat of white supremacy, and now it was the site of a rainbow gathering of different colors and nations for the installation of South Africa's first democratic non-racial government. Here, students, amphitheater is a building without roof with many rows of seats rising in steps. And rainbow gathering means the gathering of people of different colors and different races. So here he wrote, the ceremony was organized at a beautiful amphitheater in Pretoria. From many decades only white people used to rule there. It happens first time the people of different countries gather in South Africa's land, and it was the first non-racial government. On that lovely autumn day, I was accompanied by my daughter Zinani. On the podium, Mr. D. Clark was first sworn in as second deputy president. Then Thabo Mbeki was sworn in as first deputy president. When it was my turn, I pledged to obey the uphold the constitution and to devote myself to the well-being of the republic and its people. To the assembled guests and the watching world, I said, students, as we know, this is 10th May. Here he says autumn day. He says autumn day because we all know that South Africa lies in southern hemisphere, so that the people were enjoying autumn season in the month of May. He wrote that he was accompanied by his daughter Zenani. Mr. D. Clark was first sworn as second deputy president, and Thabo Mbeki was sworn in as first deputy president. When it was Nelson Mandela's turn, he swore the loyalty toward the constitution. He devoted himself for the welfare of humanity. And he says in his speech, Today, all of us do, by our presence here, confer glory and hope to newborn liberty. Out of the experience of an extraordinary human disaster that lasted too long, must be born a society of which all humanity will be proud. We who were outlawed not so long ago have today been given the rare privilege to be host to the nations of the world on our own soil. We thank all of our distinguished international guests for having come to take possession with the people of our country of what is, after all, a common victory for justice, for peace, for human dignity. We have at last achieved our political emancipation. We pledge ourselves to liberate all our people from the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, sufferings, gender, and other discriminations. Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another. The sun shall never set on so glorious as human achievement. Let freedom reign. God bless Africa. Here, in his speech, he discussed the present, the past, and the future. He says in his speech that today all of us are here to celebrate the glory of a newborn country. He focused the light on an incredible human disaster which took place in South Africa. He was talking about the apartheid system here, human disaster. He pointed toward the apartheid, a political system that separate people according to their race. He promised that he would free his people from all the obstruction. He said, never, never again will this beautiful land will experience the oppression of one by another. A few moments later, we all lifted our eyes in awe as a spectacular array of South African jets, helicopters, and troops carriers roared in perfect formation over the Union buildings. It was not only a display of pinpoint precision and military force, but a demonstration of the military's loyalty to democracy, to a new government that had been freely and fairly elected. Only moments before, the highest generals of the African Defense Force and police, their chests bedecked with ribbons and medals from days gone by, saluted me and pledged their loyalty. I was not unmindful of that fact that not so many years before they would not have saluted but arrested me. Finally, a chevron of Impala jets left a smoke trail of the black, red, green, blue, and gold of all the new South African flag. A few moments later, we all would watch the colorful program of South African jets over the Union building. It was a demonstration of military's loyalty to the democracy and elected presidents. Bedecked means decorated. The defense force and the police force, their chests decorated with ribbons and medals, saluted Mr. Mandela. He remembered the past days when these people arrested him and he had to spend 30 years in prison. Finally, a pattern in shape of V of Impala jets left a smoke trail of black, red, green, blue, and gold of a new South African flag. The day was symbolized for me by the playing of our two national anthems and the vision of whites singing Nkosi Skilil A Africa and blacks singing Die Stem. the old anthem of the Republic. Although that day neither group knew the lyrics of the anthem they once despised, they would soon know the words by heart. On that day, two national anthems had sung, white singing Kosi Sikil A Africa and black singing Daisten, the old national anthem of Republic. At the time, both black and whites did not know the lyric of the anthem, but he hoped that they will learn soon. On the day of the inauguration, I was overwhelmed with a sense of history. In the first decade of the 20th century, a few years after the bitter Anglo Boer War, and before my own birth, the white skinned peoples of South Africa patched up their differences and erected a system of racial domination against the dark skinned people of their own land. The structure they created formed the basis of one of the harshest, most inhumane societies the world had ever known. Now, in the last decade of the 20th century and my own eighth decade as a man, that system had been overturned forever and replaced by one that recognized the rights and freedoms of all people, regardless of the color of their skin. Here, remembering the history, he wrote that in the first decade of 20th century, a few years after the Anglo-Boer War, the white-skinned people of South Africa erected a system of racial discrimination against the black-skinned people of their own land. The system proved to be a base of one of the most inhumane society of the world. But this society had changed forever now. He wrote he is going to replace the society with the rights and freedom of the people, and he will going to be abolish the apartheid system.